Ladies and gentlemen, it's Lightning Round, powered by Fantasy Alarm and Bettor Sports Network. I am Kevin Tompkins. We are post-draft here, folks, so we are ready to talk about these landing spots. We have Britt Flinn, of course, Andrew Cooper, of course, our guest from Campus to Canton, Mr. Felix Sharpe. I haven't seen you in 5 days. So, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing good. Is somebody taking minutes or something? Because I hear typing. Do I need to be taking minutes of this?
That's all Coop. That's all Coop.
Oh, okay.
Trying to keyboard.
Try to retweet.
Is there a quorum present?
Here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to retweet this to the masses so that they know that we have the NFL draft just happened and we have a guy from Campus to Canton here. Like the creme de la creme when it comes to analyzing rookies. So you're giving me a hard time, dude. I'm trying to blast your face all over the interwebs so that people can come in here and see it. All right?
Very kind.
So I will mute now.
You're good. But yeah, I know obviously the Debbie community, the fantasy community, just it all came to a head at the NFL draft. So how was the whole process for you, Felix, as far as now getting some kind of finality into the 2023 class? And I know you're probably already looking forward to the 2024 class hard at work.
Yeah, I mean, we're still kind of resting on 2023, but this is the first class that we kind of, as a company, saw the whole way through. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Josh Downs, like these guys we were touting. I mean, I've got high school cut-up tapes of Jahmyr Gibbs, and then not only did he go in the first round at number 12, but he went to my favorite team, the Detroit Lions, so I was really excited about that. Anthony Richardson is somebody I've been clamoring for since he was backing up Emory Jones there at Florida. So it's really satisfying to see, where you got things right, where you got things wrong. For example, going back to Gibbs, he was like the number 12 or 13 running back, according to the big services in his class. My running back, too, at times, I even had him ranked ahead of Bijan Robinson. So I think the adjective that I would use is to say that it was satisfying.
It's so funny that for so many of us that play this game, like there's people that just play redraft and they kind of take a peek at the draft, but they don't really care until August. And then there's us that play Dynasty where this is like the beginning for us. But then there's you guys over at Campus Canton, these Debbie leagues where like it's almost like the middle point, or like this is such a big event for these guys you've been looking at for years and years. So I got to get myself into some Debbie leagues so I can experience what that's like. Because for me, these guys, I obviously watch some college ball. I take a peek, but this is like the beginning of when I truly care. Whereas for you, it's got to be really satisfying to see something like that,
Coop, it's nothing different than Dynasty. We're just playing Dynasty. We're just extending it down to the college ranks. And for those
it's a little different. It's a little different.
For those in the audience who don't know, you have a college team and an NFL team. The NFL team operates like any Dynasty league. And then the college team, you're playing college fantasy every week. And then when your players declare for the NFL draft, they are added to your NFL roster. So, we're just kind of extending the ladder down here to college because if you love football, what's better than more football? And there are times in like November, October, where you have MAC games and these lower conference games every night where you could legitimately have a fantasy player going every single night of the week. And I can't tell you how much fun that is to have, a guy to watch on Monday night for the NFL, on Tuesday for MAC, on Wednesday for MAC. Then once we get to Thursday, it's NFL and college. And then Friday and Saturday, college, and then the NFL. I mean, I grew up playing football. I wouldn't call myself a football junkie, but I do love the game. And, now we get to experience it all year round. Recruiting matters. The NFL draft matters. It just makes more things matter. And so we get to dive into that stuff, and I get to talk to you fine folks.
And the transfer portal has really put in an entire new shred of lettuce on that sandwich.
It's free agency. Listen, it's free agency and there's a free market. In the NFL, you don't have a free market. We have no idea what Patrick Mahomes is worth because it's not a free market. There's a salary cap. Patrick Mahomes, if it was a free market, if there was no salary cap, he might get $1 billion contract. In college, we're even seeing it with the female athletes, what they're making, what gymnasts are making, what the female basketball players are making. But in going back to the transfer portal, you get kids who are essentially recruited into the transfer portal because they can make themselves a dime going to another team. And we don't have that in the NFL where, take whoever your favorite player is. Jonathan Taylor can just say, you know what, Colts, I'm out. I'm going to go head to – I want to go play with C.J. Stroud in Houston. I want to go play with my boy, Bryce Young in Carolina. We don't have that in the NFL, and so the freedom that the players get in college is really, really unique, and it makes it all the more intriguing.
Yeah, I love the NIL, like especially like if it's going to not just pay these guys, but as you mentioned, pay some of these gymnasts, pay some of these other folks that normally wouldn't make money, and kind of encourage them to play at their highest level, especially for when they go to represent this country. Like I want to get back to the point where USA was just crushing the Olympics, like just dominating. People were terrified to play against the dream team and us as Olympian athletes. So I hope it translates to just better treatment for athletes across the board. Because, I mean, nothing better than to get a good USA chant going during the Olympics, I will say.
Better treatment for the athletes. And I think that to use football as the comparison, for guys who are, day 3, 5th, 6th round draft picks, you're not going to see them jump to the NFL in their 3rd year as much. They may stay around for their 4th year of eligibility. They may stay around for their 5th year of eligibility. I can tell you in next year's class, there's a quarterback in Michael Penix Jr. who is a 5th year senior. He could have come out last year. But I think that that's going to be more common because for someone like Tank Bigsby, who was the face of the Auburn program, does it make more sense to come out and be a borderline day 2, day 3 prospect and, get the NFL contract, or stay at Auburn and get whatever I bet you it was a very, very high 6-figure, maybe 7-figure deal at Auburn and stay there. I think that it's going to be better for the game overall, even the NFL, because fans are going to know these players' names a little bit more because they will have recognized them. They will have seen them longer, and they will have established themselves on the college stage a little bit more before making that jump to the NFL.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Ooh, jinx, Kev. All right, let's get to some of these players then. Why don't we talk about some of these boys?
Let's do it.
It's you, Kev. It's all you.
I know. I had to ruin the jinx. You said jinx. I couldn't talk.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. Sorry.
Unfortunate.
You can give me a Coke at the expo if I can go.
Yeah, if you can go, if the missus lets you go. So we were talking about running backs. Let's just talk about running backs. We've talked about Bijan Robinson until our faces are blue, but right now in Best Ball Mania 4, he's going off at RB2 right now, behind Chris McCaffrey, 8th overall. We know Bijan is, the generational running back, but is the juice going to be worth the squeeze, Felix, in year 1 in the Atlanta Falcons with Arthur Smith? Is he going to tote him out there 300 times?
I'm surprised that he's going as the RB2. I think I tweeted last year that I had Bijan Robinson as the RB1 in Dynasty. So this is not a surprise. I think he lands in the perfect spot for a coach to utilize him as a bell cow running back. I know that you have Tyler Algier there, but I mean, they're duplicate skill sets. Obviously, Bijan Robinson is way on the higher end of that skill set. So to answer, is he going to tote him out there 300 times? Yeah, I think so. That's the answer to that question.
So does that mean is Algier dead as far as your fantasy rosters? Like, is he anything more than just a best ball or a handcuff?
I really don't think so because of what Bijan Robinson can do on every single down. I can't think of a scenario where I am drawing up plays for the game plan that week where Tyler Algier is the better option than Bijan Robinson. I can't think of one. Now, maybe Bijan needs to be spelled a bit, but I don't know. I think Bijan is, might be a throwback to these older classes where it wasn't uncommon to see a running back carry the ball 24 times. Now Bijan has the ability to also catch 10 passes in a game, but I think that he's going to have, look where he was taken. He's a running back taken in the top 10. I think that his workload is going to be very heavy right out the gate and kind of until the wheels fall off, until he shows that he can't handle a substantive workload. And I think that he's going to get that from day one.
Yeah, Felix, you hit the nail on the head that there's a lot of different scenarios in football to use a different running back, but only some of them are high leverage enough to be worthwhile to start. Like the guy that does mop-up duty, that's a situation, but you can't bank on that because, if we could predict what team was going to win the game each week, then we would just be betting on the game and sitting on a little island somewhere with an umbrella in our drinks, So when it comes to figuring out who you can start and who you can't, you need a guy that either catches passes, scores touchdowns, or gets huge volume. And like you said, we can't paint that picture for Algier the way sometimes you can with, like, if there's a early down back and a pass catching back, you can create that narrative. I can't possibly come up with one, like you said. So I'm just out on Algier. It has to be that way.
Yeah, I mean, was Arthur Smith the offensive coordinator when Derrick Henry ran for 2,000 yards?
Yes.
I mean, I don't remember somebody. I don't even remember who was his backup running back.
They don't care.
I can't remember.
It doesn't matter because
Deion Lewis.
Deion Lewis. Yeah.
Deion Lewis. Yeah.
I think, But
they tried to play the Deion Lewis card.
It wasn't happening.
No, they're going to give Bijan a lot of work.
Yeah. Enough Bijan talk, though. He's
we've
amazing.
talked him to death.
Yeah, the whole blue in the face thing. That was the preface of Bijan Robinson. But let's talk about Jahmyr Gibbs. Obviously, he was drafted, and now DeAndre Swift has been traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. So right now, it's looking like Gibbs and Montgomery might be plus version of Swift and Jamal Williams from last year. We know Montgomery, I don't know if he's riding into the sunset, but I'd say he's probably a little better profiling with Jamal Williams, but I do like Gibbs as far as his pass catching. Gibbs is going off at RB19 right now in Best Ball Mania. So, I mean, that seems rich for me, but talk some sense into me.
RB19 is too low.
Talk some sense into me.
And Kev, we had this conversation on the Better Sports Show, on the draft show. I want to make sure I don't forget to say anything here. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is a Hall of Fame level running back talent because of how diverse his skill set is. When is the last time you've been able to describe a running back as a deep threat? I can't really think of a time where I've been able to describe a running back that way. At Georgia Tech, not at Alabama, because Bill O'Brien, sorry, Coop, is a terrible offensive coordinator and doesn't know how to get the most out of his offensive players. So not at Alabama. But in the 2 previous years at Georgia Tech, the wheel route out of the backfield was a staple of the Georgia Tech offense. And so they will be throwing Jahmyr Gibbs the ball, 30, 40 yards down the line of scrimmage, down the field, with a linebacker trying to play in space. I think if Ben Johnson is able to utilize him that way, the way Jeff Collins did in Atlanta at Georgia Tech, then we could see Jahmyr Gibbs have multiple seasons of 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving. The knock on Jahmyr Gibbs was allegedly his interior rushing. Well, what could be a boon to a player's interior rushing other than playing with a top 5 run blocking offensive line? Penei Sewell, Frank Ragnow, Taylor Decker. The big
Don't forget Dan Skipper.
The big hog molly's there to push up front. So I think that this guy is a different kind of running back, again, because I can't think of the last time. Christian McCaffrey, great pass catcher. Aaron Jones, great pass catcher. Aaron Jones was used vertically in the passing game a little bit, but not consistently. But go back and watch Jahmyr Gibbs' freshman season when he was 18 years old, playing against Syracuse on the road at Syracuse. He's got wheel routes from the slot there, catch for a touchdown over his shoulder. I think that this guy is just a dynamic pass catcher, and Ben Johnson has allegedly said that they plan to play him in the slot there in Detroit. I think what he means by that is when you have your running back in the backfield and then you motion them out, one, you get to see what coverage the defense is in because that linebacker moves or he doesn't move. So that tells you either man or zone. If they have the nerve to have some linebacker guard Jahmyr Gibbs in space when he goes out, to the outside there, it's going to be on and popping. That's an automatic mismatch. He can run double moves. He can run slants if you want to. We saw a little bit of this with Le'Veon Bell, but again, Le'Veon Bell was not the vertical threat in the passing game. He was consistent in the intermediate routes. And the last point here on Jahmyr Gibbs is we saw the Lions use DeAndre Swift the way I anticipate they are going to use Jahmyr Gibbs. I can't remember the game, but there is a game where DeAndre Swift was wide open. They ran him on a wheel route out of the backfield, about 34 yards. It was like 30 seconds left of the game. The ball falls through his hands. The ball's not going to fall through Jahmyr Gibbs' hands. And I think that he's going to get those tough yards, even though he's under 199 pounds. I think he's going to run a little bit tougher than people think at that size.
Bill O'Brien was with the Patriots for 2007 and 2011, arguably two of the greatest offensive seasons of all time.
Yeah, and Gibbs, people just want to peg Gibbs as a pass catching back or a space back. But even if they do want to only peg him as a space back, he had more rushes of 15 plus yards than anybody in the nation. So go ahead, peg him as a space back. He's still going to get that yardage, even if he does end up in a committee with Montgomery, which I think he will to an extent this season because the Lions did pay Montgomery $18 million. But eventually, Gibbs is going to be the guy.
Yeah, I mean, did Jamal Charles ever touch the ball? Just handoffs? Did they just hand him the ball 30 times a game? No, he was still. I mean, the same thing with Austin Eckler. Now, I don't think he's as great an interior thumper as Austin Eckler is at that size, but I think Jamal Charles is the comparison where I think that this player will be very, very efficient with his touches, both in the running game and in the receiving game. And think about how diverse that offensive skill set. You got Jameson Williams on the outside stretching the field. I think if he was healthy and he ran at the combine, remember that year at the combine, everybody was running 4.3s. Jameson Williams, easily the fastest player in college football. I think he would have ran like a 3.9 had he been healthy enough to run. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown there on the outside. They just drafted Sam Laporta also. Who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting somebody here. Or they got Zay Jones back.
Marvin Jones
back, coming back to Detroit. I mean, it's just it's a offense that can beat you in a number of ways. And I just like what it is that they're building there. And I think that the complement of he and Montgomery together is really, really perfect because we knew Jahmyr Gibbs would need to be, the 1B, 1A weapon type, because you will see them on the field at the same time. You will see Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery lined up in the backfield, and then Jahmyr Gibbs goes and motions out to one side or the other. We're going to see that.
Austin Eckler never had a 1,000-yard rushing season. Alvin Kamara never had a 1,000-yard rushing season. Scott Barrett mathematically proved that targets are more valuable, not even just receptions. Targets are more valuable than carries in every format. That includes standard. Even in standard, it's like 1.36 times as valuable. In full PPR, 2.74 times as valuable. I do not care about carries. I truly don't. Give me the guy who's catching the ball out of the backfield. Boom.
He could have 100 receptions in a season. I don't think that's
all we need in this world. I mean, 100 receptions. He could have 0 carries if he has 100 receptions. I do not care.
Pretty much. I'm down. Speaking of down, there's probably not a worse landing spot for a running back than Zach Charbonnet going to the Seattle Seahawks. So Felix, I mean, seeing him go to Seattle, obviously Ken Walker is there. Just got to cut him off of the legs at this point.
Yeah, I think you do. I mean, they're at I think both of them, to be honest with you, because we could have, a Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams situation here. And I can't remember. I think that both of those guys were really frustrating for fantasy. And I think that's on the NFL side. I think it's going to be great for Geno Smith, great for the offense overall, that you can just continue to play thunder. But who is going to pop any given week? Who's going to get the touchdowns? Remember, the draft capital for both of them is the same. Ken Walker, second-round draft pick. Zach Charbonnet, second-round draft pick. So it's not like the team prioritized one over the other. It's a good NFL pick. I don't have a problem with this loading up on the backfield, making things easy. Remember, Geno Smith, really one season of kind of, good production. So let's make things easier for him. Remember, they also got Jackson Smith and Jigba to complete that wide receiver core. Don't have a problem with the pick necessarily, but it's not great for fantasy. But quite frankly, I don't think that those guys, they care that much. They're trying to win games.
Yeah. And you never know, honestly. I mean, like you think about it, when Alvin Kamara was a rookie, they had Mark Ingram and Adrian Peterson. They obviously traded Adrian Peterson. Mark Ingram that year had 1,500 yards, 12 touchdowns, 1,500 yards from scrimmage, 12 touchdowns. He was RB6. Alvin Kamara had 1,550 yards from scrimmage and 13 touchdowns. He was RB3. Like we've seen Tevin Coleman and Devonta Freeman. There's a possibility where they get there. For Charbonnet, I think I've been seeing what Pete Carroll's been saying, and he says like, oh, he's going to compete with Kenneth Walker for pass downs. But I think they drafted Charbonnet knowing that he's probably going to play pass downs. Kenneth Walker's going to play early downs. For me personally, I'm just drafting the guys I think are most talented, and I'll let the Lord sort the rest out. Like I'm taking Gibbs, I'm taking Charbonnet. I do not care. I'm not going to take a less talented player in Dynasty just because he got picked, just because the team coveted him so much they picked him early. You know what I mean? Like they like this guy so much they took him when they already have a running back. To me, that is a vote of confidence.
The thing about this for me is just trying to figure out, since they drafted JSN and then Charbonnet like right after, do they want to establish the run or do they want to pass more? And that to me is the real quagmire of trying to decipher what Seattle's offense is going to be. I don't really know who to pick. Like, do I go ahead and pick Charbonnet thinking that they're just going to pound the rock? Do I pick JSN thinking that they're going to pass more than they did last season? That's where the real quandary is for me. But as far as a real NFL pick, I love it. It's just very frustrating for fantasy.
Yeah, and I do like Britt busting out the Q words, quandary and quagmire. By the way, it's like playing categories over here. You roll the Q.
And there's a lot of Scrabble points in that word there. Good job, Britt.
Thanks.
Just when you look at the juxtaposition of Kenneth Walker next to Zach Charbonnet, how many points I get there?
This is what happens when I have a headache. My brain goes into like safe mode, and it's just like all of the words aligned. So they're all very similar.
Juxtaposition.
Stop it. Get some help.
I got to drop one a show.
Oh my Lord. Well, speaking of a good name that'll get some Scrabble points, Tyjae Spears, very well, he's talked about a lot lately just because of his medicals. Obviously Derrick Henry is there. It seems like that's just kind of a combination for somebody that will be slipping down best ball boards, somebody that's going to be maybe overvalued now. You're going to get him a lot cheaper later. I just don't see any kind of path for Tyjae Spears to be able to, unless he's a spell, like we were talking about with Tyler Algier. So, I mean, Tyjae Spears, what's your thoughts on him at Tennessee?
It's tough to make out because I think Tennessee has drafted this guy, a couple of times in the last couple of drafts. They drafted, I think it was Hassan Haskins. They've drafted, I can't think of the guy out of Appalachian State. They've done this a couple of times. Now, Tyjae Spears is a different type of running back, more of the, I guess, lightning to Derrick Henry's thunder. I know that there's a problem with his ACL. This is a value question to me. There are some players that I would prefer. I would have to know where he's being taken. I think I prefer Kendre Miller over him. I definitely prefer Devin Achane over him. And maybe you had those guys flipped pre-draft, and now I think that you have to flip, put Achane and Miller over Tyjae Spears. So I don't necessarily have a problem with the player or the landing spot. I mean, Derrick Henry, I don't know how long he's going to be doing this. I mean, maybe he has a career arc like Adrian Peterson. I think that that's fair to comp him to. And Adrian Peterson was still very, very productive late, even into his 30s. Maybe we have that, but he's probably going to get spelled at some point. Is that Tyjae Spears? Maybe. I mean, some point in the mid-second round in dynasty rookie drafts or late second round, I don't have a problem pulling the trigger there. I'm not taking him in the first. If you were taking him in the first, pre-draft. So more than, landing spot or skill set, I think that this is just a question of value and not prioritizing him over some other. I think I'd still take Zach Charbonnet over him, just to be clear on that. So it's just not prioritizing him over some other players in this class.
Yeah, I'm with you. You go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to throw out a one-liner. Like, did we not learn anything from Todd Gurley? When a running back has a medical situation like that, where Spears, for example, doesn't have an ACL in his knee, and he already has arthritis as a rookie in the NFL. I don't think that there's any way that you can take him in dynasty and feel confident about him because Derrick Henry is still there. By the time Derrick Henry's gone, what is the status of that arthritis going to be in that knee? You might get a year, maybe 2 out of this guy. And that's not to knock on his talent, but that is a gigantic red flag for me in Dynasty.
Well, Britt, I got a one-liner for you. You can't tear your ACL if you don't have one. So, checkmate.
I'm going to tell Sellers that. I'm going to tell him.
You think he'll be all right with that? Yeah, I'm with you. With Felix's guys, like I'm definitely taking Chain, definitely taking Miller, definitely taking Charbonnet. The question for me gets into this next group. Like, who do you, because at a certain point, you have to make a decision. You have Roshan Johnson, bit of a mystery box that played behind Bijan. He ends up in a backfield where he could be the best guy, but they also have a mobile quarterback. Those guys often take a lot of goal line carries. They don't target the running back enough. I also consider guys like Tank Bigsby in that area, maybe a Chase Brown. Some other guys like Evan Hull, he's kind of a pass catching only back. Izzy, we all loved him on Twitter, but the landing spot's not great. Out of those guys, Felix, like Tajay Spears, Roshan Johnson, Tank Bigsby, Chase Brown, is there anyone that you sit there and you say, I'm on the clock, all the wide receivers I like are gone, who am I taking?
Yeah, it's definitely not Evan Hull, and I would take both Tank Bigsby and Roshan Johnson over him, because if we think about this from an investment perspective, even if Tajay Spears hypothetically gets the job, I think that we will first of all, the dynasty community, people are very, very sharp. I mean, you can't sell your fake steak knives to folks in the dynasty community. It's just a sharp. It's not, your work redraft league. So even if Tajay Spears got the job, would you be able to trade him for a first down the line? No. I mean, you would probably at best be able to get the same draft capital that you invested in him, but could you get a return on your investment? And I'm saying that on Spears because of the knee injury issues. So we think that his career in the NFL is short-lived. But could you get a return on your investment in Roshan Johnson? Could Roshan Johnson be, a 1,200-yard rusher in this league? I think so. We know that Travis Etienne has had injury issues both in college and in the NFL. And he was like the number 1 or 2 running back in his class. I think that he could potentially be somebody that you can get a return on investment from. So it's not Hull, but Tank Bigsby and Roshan Johnson, I'm easily taking them ahead of Tajay Spears. I'm probably not going to I don't know where Tajay Spears is going. I'm probably just going to let somebody else press that button. And if he's taking wherever he's taking, fine. I'm going to wait and I will grab Bigsby. I will grab Roshan Johnson and just see how it turns out.
Dig it. Definitely. I do want to pivot over to the wide receivers here, but I do want to ask about Devin Achane too, because he is the guy that I will probably be drafting the most of, just based on the confluence of Shanahan offense. Raheem Mostert's 31 years old, probably a duplicative skill set with Mostert as far as just blazing fast speed, with Jeff Wilson is more of a hammer. So what do you think about Achane being able to just carve out a role mid-season? And I think he's going to light best ball on fire this year.
What was the draft capital in Mostert and Jeff Wilson?
I think 5th round or later.
No, I don't think either one of those guys were drafted.
Or Mostert wasn't. Wilson might. I couldn't tell you offhand.
In Devin Achane, we have a guy who had a very good pedigree, who was a track star, who always played both at Texas A&M, and now is going to be focusing on the NFL. So, yeah, he was light, but he was also, running track. Can he get to 205 pounds and maintain that lightning quick speed? I think that he can. I think that he is going to be an integral part of this offense. Is he going to be the bell cow? I don't know, but I think that people think that because Devin Achane is, small, that he's not an interior runner, kind of the same thing with Jahmyr Gibbs. He is. So I think that he's at worst the RB4 in this class, especially.
Yeah, he averaged almost 20 carries last year.
Yeah. This is
in
not
the SEC. That's
in the SEC. So, and take all of that, and what does this 49ers wide zone scheme, what does it prioritize? Speed. You don't have like a faster running back or a guy who emphasizes speed in his game more than Devin Achane. So, and Kev, I said this during the Bettor Sports Show, like from a skill set and schematic match together, I don't know that there was a better landing spot that you could think of for Devin Ichain. So I would guess that he's going in the back of the first round. That's where I would take him, and I think that that's right where you should select him.
Yeah. Raheem Mostert, he's the perfect replacement for Raheem Mostert, who's 31 years old and has only played a full season one time. So it's only a matter of time there. Before we jump to wide receivers, Richie in the chat has a question. Can you give us just a couple quick words on Dwayne McBride?
Yeah, I think Dwayne McBride is the poor man's Javonte Williams, so a thumper who can break a lot of tackles. Now, he caught just as many passes last year as I did. They're playing at UAB, but UAB has historically not thrown to its running back. So we don't know if this guy actually can catch the ball. He might be fine on like swing routes and check downs and like that, even though but at the very worst, I mean, I think that he's potentially a Jordan Howard type. I say a poor man's Javonte Williams because Javonte is a little bit bigger, a little bit faster. When you think about, I've got Dwayne McBride rostered at a lot of places. He came out, I think that 2020 season as a freshman and played really, really well. Ran for like 586 yards. As a matter of fact, in that 2021 season where Georgia had the historic defense that all those guys plays for the Eagles now, out of UAB, Dwayne McBride ran for the second most yards against that defense that year. I think he had like 61 yards. So think about that. G5 team going to get stomped by Georgia, who won a national championship that year. And it was Dwayne McBride who ran for the second most yards against the team that entire year. That team, like through the first 5 or 6 games, gave up like 21 points or something like that. So I think that he's a really good player, but probably a first and second down type of Jamal Williams, Jordan Howard type.
Awesome. Dig it. Let's go over to the wide receivers here, and it's a pretty fun dichotomy between Jackson Smith-Njigba and Jordan Addison because Dynasty consensus JSN is number 1. Addison, you could probably throw Quentin Johnson there as far as the second wide receiver. But if you're talking about redraft or best ball, you've definitely got a conversation there between Jordan Addison and JSN. So just talk about JSN's landing spot. With Seattle, we're hoping that they play more 3 wide receiver sets. Versus Jordan Addison, who has a ready-made role as Minnesota's, he really only has KJ Osborne to worry about.
Yeah, the question with Jackson Smith-Njigba to me was, could he play outside? Because this is a guy who played in the slot with Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Chris Olave, Julian Fleming. Like, that is where he played at Ohio State. We don't got to worry about that no more because he's going to play in the slot with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett on the outside. So he gets to play in the place where he is most comfortable. My only hesitation with Seattle would be, Pete Carroll. I think that since he's been there, he's been a defensive guy. He wants to run the ball. They just drafted a running back in the second round. But I think that Tyler Lockett's contract is up next year. Do they re-sign him? I mean, I kind of would, to be honest with you, depending on what he's asking for. And so it could be a while until he's the clear number 2 wide receiver. Again, another spot that maybe I think that JSN is going to be fine, but maybe a guy who doesn't have a wide receiver 1 ceiling in fantasy and maybe a better schematic NFL pick than fantasy pick. With Jordan Addison, we know that the Vikings have consolidated between like 2 targets. That's just what they do. It was Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, and they kind of added TJ Hawkinson. So now I think the target's going to be consolidated between those 3, probably with Jordan Addison. To me, clearly the number 2 wide receiver there. I think the question was regarding redraft and best ball for this season. I mean, you got to think it's Jordan Addison, right? I mean, he's going to be on the field all the time, or at least he should be. And he's a guy who can play all 3 wide receiver positions. If you want to put him in the boundary and do boundary stuff, you want to put him in the slot and run kind of the Hunter Renfrow, Wes Welker type routes and whip routes and stuff like that, he can do that. And if you want to put him out in the flanker and just have him run go routes and try to burn the worst player on the field, by the way, on defense, your field corner, usually the worst player on the field. If you want him to go against that matchup, you can do that too. So I love Jordan Addison because of how well-rounded he is. I think that Devonta Smith is the perfect comp for him. And And I'm trying to think of from like a dynasty perspective, who I would pick. I kind of lean towards the guy who has been the more highly touted player this entire time, and that is Jackson Smith-Njigba. But Jordan Addison's right there.
I'm fully with you, man. That's how I have it. I have JSN as my wide receiver 1 in Dynasty, and I project exactly what you're saying, and I think it could be a Chris Godwin type trajectory, where people remember Chris Godwin was behind Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson, and he just played the slot. Then when just Deshaun Jackson was gone, now he plays flanker in 2 wide receiver set slots in 3 wide receiver sets. So I think you're right on point with that. We just have to wait out Tyler Lockett, who turns 31 this year. In best ball, in Dynasty, I'm taking Jordan Addison first. I just like the opportunity better. So we're in lockstep on that. You guys out there, if you're not set up yet for best ball, it's the best way to figure out the ADP, figure out where these guys are going for redraft. We just started doing best ball drafts. We did one with the staff. We just set up the Discord. So we're going to start doing with all the Fantasy Alarm members. So here's what you do. Go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog, or just go right to Underdog, use promo code FANTASYALARM, and get set up there. They'll match you up to $100 in bonus credit. So 100% of whatever you deposit. You deposit 20, they match 20. You do 100, they match 100. Then go over to our Discord. We just added a brand new channel. We just redecorated the place over there. Doesn't it look nice, Britt? The Discord channel?
It's so
Straighten out the
fancy. I love it.
frames.
The feng shui is perfect.
Oh, yeah. It's very nice over there. So go throw your hat in the ring in the Best Ball channel, and we'll get you in a Best Ball draft with us. We'll get you in. Howard Bender is going to do them. Jim Bowden said he's doing a football one with us next week. Adam Ronis, Fensterman, the whole gang. Get set up there. That's what you got to do. Use promo code Fantasy Alarm and then get set up. If you're not a Fantasy Alarm member, promo code NFL Draft is still live right now. It gets all of our channels, not just the NFL, NASCAR, basketball, baseball, all of them for 6 months at 50% off. So that's what we got going on right now. Sorry, it's 20% off that one. That's what we got going on. Jump in there and let's get this going.
Let's do it. And you know what? We've been talking about JSN. We've been talking about Jordan Addison. It almost seems like Quentin Johnston's the forgotten guy, a trio of these wide receivers. And he landed in a pretty good spot himself because he goes on to Los Angeles. He's got Keenan Allen, Mike Williams there. They do play enough 11 personnel. Obviously Josh Palmer's still there, but I can't foresee Johnston not being able to kind of usurp his role there on the outside. So how do you feel about Quentin Johnston, at least this year and going forward in Los Angeles?
It's a great landing spot, obviously. I mean, you're playing with Justin Herbert, who's probably, a top out of 5-6 arm in the NFL. I think that therein lies the problem between the match between the two. And this is after giving it some thought, because the inconsistency with Quentin Johnston is his ability to catch the football. And you have, a guy who can really let it go in Justin Herbert. Is that a problem? Maybe, I don't know. I think that you can actually improve your hand positioning and be more consistent with your hands, at least in some respects. The thing that I like about Quentin Johnston is his ability to win after the catch. So while he is developing the consistency with his catch technique and squeezing that football, you can just give him the ball on jailbreak screen. Remember how the Denver Broncos used Demaryius Thomas with Peyton Manning at the helm? They just ran all the offensive linemen out there and ran him on jailbreak screens and had Demaryius Thomas running down the sideline. May he rest in peace. I think that they could do the same thing with Quentin Johnston. Run him on bubble routes, run him on slants, run him on short stuff. Let him beat one guy after he catches the ball and then sprint down the field. He has a tremendous first step after the catch, given that length that he has in his stride. And so I think it's fair. I mean, you guys are in the community. It's fair. You've seen the comments about Quentin Johnston's catching, pass catching. I think that that's fair. But we've not highlighted the things that he does really, really well. And that's be a big athlete who can, is a problem for cornerbacks, for smaller cornerbacks after he catches the ball. Perfect landing spot to develop that skill set, especially since he will have, 1-2 years to become the alpha. And the thing about all of these guys, Jackson taking the first round, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Quentin Johnston. Who profiles like somebody you can line up in the X and build your entire passing game around? It's a 6'4" guy who, I don't even remember if he ran But we know that he has the athleticism that it's there. So he has a very high ceiling, but he's been inconsistent. I mean, you can look at his stats last year. I think he had like 2 games over 100 yards. Going to have a better passer in Justin Herbert. But watch out for that development and how they use him. Like, are they using him on short stuff? Is he being consistent on squeezing the ball down the field? Those are the things that I would look out for.
Yeah, the concerns for him are very similar to the ones for DJ Chark, which they materialize with DJ Chark, where Chark, athletic freak, right? But he just doesn't play to his size, doesn't go up and high point the ball. That's a concern. But the thing is, that's kind of what he is now. And DJ Chark is actually still a pretty good NFL player, even if he didn't turn into a super megastar. If this guy can figure it out, like Felix suggests, now you do have a super megastar, right? And when you do have a guy like that, I don't really care about the rest of the people there. Like, as crazy as it sounds with the Cooper Kupp thing, like the way he's playing now, people didn't quite know what he was. Maybe Steve Smith did. Steve Smith was the only person that was sitting there. Steve Smith Sr. was sitting there saying, this guy's the best wide receiver in the class.
Out of the whole class.
And I was like, what are you talking about, dude? But like, when they had, you forget when they drafted him, they had Robert Woods, Sammy Watkins. They went out to get Brandon Cooks. Nah, dude. It was Cooper Kupp, dude. He just ended up being the best guy, like Steve Smith Sr. said. So if Quentin Johnston ends up being that guy, it doesn't matter who else is there. He's playing with a guy with a cannon arm, and at the end of the day, he's going to put up points. So I'm interested in him. To be quite honest, I'll take any one of these top 4 guys to win the first round. I'll just take them. I don't care. The question is, Felix, out of these 4, if who do you like the least out of the first round guys exclusive? Who's the one that, like, if you're sitting there, 4 picks and you know the wide receivers are going to go, which is the guy that you don't want to be the last one there, where you just kind of have to click that button?
I just worry about whether Zay Flowers can be a primary weapon in that offense. First of all, there are a lot of guys there, but Lamar Jackson's strength has never been like throwing outside of the numbers where we would expect Zay Flowers to line up. As a matter of fact, if you think, okay, Odell Beckham Jr. is probably your X. If not, it's Rashad Bateman if he's healthy. Where is Zay Flowers going to line up? Probably either in the slot or at flanker, like the farthest away from the football possible, at least to start off his career. Oh, by the way, Lamar Jackson has never had a 1,000-yard wide receiver. Now, obviously, Mark Andrews has done his thing, but 1,000-yard wide receiver, I'm not talking about in the NFL. I'm talking about going back to his time at Louisville. Now, Jalen Smith in 2017 had 980 yards receiving in a season, but never had a 1,000-yard receiver. So I worry about. I like Zay Jones, the player. I love both Quentin Johnson and Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers can really run after the catch, and Zay Flowers does it in like a quick twitch, explosive kind of way, can kind of make you look silly. Kind of the moves that we saw from Dante Hall. If you're old enough to have watched Dante Hall for the Kansas City Chiefs, he moves kind of like that. But that's the landing spot that I worry about. And so if we're going to see him produce, consistent wide receiver 2 numbers, we're going to need to see some development from Lamar Jackson, and we're going to need to see some volume given to Zay Jones that I don't really expect, Zay Flowers, that I don't really expect to be there.
We're trying to manifest Zay Jones here to maybe get them a little bit bigger weapon, bigger in size, aside from Mark Andrews, certainly. But, Zay Flowers will certainly be interesting in the Todd Monken offense, how they use these guys. Are there any day two or further wide receivers that you see maybe making a year 1 impact, the Jalen Hyatts and Josh Downs, guys of that ilk?
Yeah, I was actually surprised that Josh Downs fell to where he did. He was kind of one of my one of my favorites pre-draft. A smaller slot wide receiver who plays bigger than he is. I think that he's the perfect landing spot there in Indianapolis because what do they have on the outside? They've got Jelani Woods. They've got Michael Pittman. They got Alec Pierce. 6'5", 6'7". Jelani Woods is 6'7". And then Josh Downs is clearly
Jelani Woods.
Yes. And Josh Downs clearly the slot wide receiver there. So I like his landing spot. I have there are some names in Houston: John Mechie, Robert Woods,
Brown.
No, and then the wide receiver from Michigan, Nico Collins. But nobody that you're necessarily afraid of. So I like Tank Dell. We saw how, he was explosive the last 2 seasons at Houston. He was explosive at the Senior Bowl. The only question that we have really about him is his size. I like him. And then I like Jaden Reed. I like Jaden Reed's skill set. At the very least, he's going to get on the field as a punt returner early on. I love when my wide receivers can return punts and kicks because, one, that if they are back there returning punts and kicks, that means that the coaches think that they need to get the ball in this player's hands. And, we've seen Antonio Brown comes to mind, Jarvis Landry comes to mind, these guys who were taken on the later days, but then kind of developed as they played on special teams. So I would pick those 3, Josh Downs, Tank Dell, Jaden Reed.
Yeah, I know your boy over there, Austin, at Campus to Can. Shout out, Austin joined it for part of the stream. He loves Reed. That was a flag guy for him, so he loved the landing spot. I love Josh Downs. Talked to Brandon Huffman from 247 Sports at length about him. Just said he's a baller. And also he mentioned that, and you probably know the name because you're deep in those Devy streets. His little brother Caleb Downs apparently is Brandon Huffman's.
Safety at Alabama. He's going to start this year where Nick Saban does not let freshmen start. He's a true freshman. And he's probably the best player or one of the best players on that defense.
Brandon Huffman said that he went out of his way to bring up 2 players, Bryce Young and Josh Downs, as guys who just flat out can ball. He doesn't care what size they are, who they are. And then he mentioned Caleb Downs. He was like, his little brother might be even more of that dog. So I'm interested to see a freshman starting for Nick Saban. This guy's got to be a beast, huh?
I mean, Josh Downs didn't start as a freshman. And, I mean, Caleb Downs, we just had the Alabama spring game 2 weeks ago, and the best player in that game was Caleb Downs coming up and smacking wide receivers. So, yeah, he's going to be the truth. Probably a first-round draft pick in 3 years.
Awesome.
That's awesome. I just checked, and as of right this moment, I have more followers on Twitter than Caleb Downs. I expect that to flip in the upcoming months, but just wanted to get that on record.
By the way, you mentioned Austin, Jaden Reed being a flag plant. That was in the 2022 Devy Guide. We just released the Campus to Canton Devy Guide. We've got the freshman guide that came out March 1st and the Devy Guide. So freshmen and then all of the classes that came out on Monday. You can get that at campustocan.com.
Hell yeah. I'm definitely going to check that out. I'm getting in a Devy league. I just listening to you guys talk on the pregame show and listening to you guys, on the show, both with us live. And I did the first night I did 3 straight hours. And then I was like, I should log off, but I sat there and watched you guys' entire show. I was like, this is just too much fun. So just after watching you guys, talking to you guys, I need to get into a Devy league. Tell me what I need to do, Felix.
CampusToCanton.com is where you need to go. We can get you started there if you're looking for C2C leagues. So I want to make sure that the audience understands. In a Devy league, you may roster 5 college players or so, and they sit on your roster until they declare for the NFL draft. In Campus to Canton, you are drafting 45 rounds of players, and you are playing every single week. Like you're starting Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud and Marvin Harrison Jr., and those players are getting points for you every week, and you can win your game. As a matter of fact, last season I traded Caleb Williams, USC quarterback Caleb Williams, and Marvin Harrison Jr. for Stephon Diggs, Kyler Murray, and Nick Chubb, I think, in a league. So you can even do trades.
Wow.
Like my NFL team was really, really good, and I wanted to make it even better. So I traded Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. Now I kind of wish I didn't do that.
Both those guys could go top 5 next year, right? I mean, that's what they're saying.
Definitely top 10 draft picks for both of them.
Yeah. So we have time to hit QBs and tight ends real quick, right, Kev? What do you say?
Yeah, let's lightning round, as the kids say. Look at that.
For
That's
namesake.
Whoa!
I know, right? I don't think I've ever actually dropped something like that before.
I love when they say the name of the movie during the movie.
Oh,
exactly. There it is, baby. Let's go. Lightning round.
Let's talk about Dalton Kincaid. Let's just talk about his fit in the Buffalo offense, because it was kind of a perplexing pick at face value, but diving into it a little more, Felix, it feels like he's got a chance to be one of their main slot options here. What do you think?
I want to make sure that we do have time to talk about the quarterbacks before I answer this question. So please, let's make sure we get
We'll have time for both. We'll have time for both.
No.
The faster you answer, the faster we get to them.
Dalton Kincaid, I think with a tight end like him who's going to dominate in the seams and kind of throw in the area where your middle linebacker is playing the middle of the field and may have his back turned, you got to have a quarterback who's willing to throw the ball to him where he may look covered. If he was playing with Marcus Mariota, for some reason, when I think of a quarterback being conservative and not wanting to turn the ball over and throw it into those spaces, I automatically go to Marcus Mariota. Josh Allen ain't that. Josh Allen will throw the ball into triple coverage to a fullback in the playoffs down the field. So he has no fear. So, great athlete, great catch radius. This is a really strong tight end class. It wouldn't have surprised me if Sam Laporta went in the first round. It wouldn't have surprised – actually, that would have surprised me. It wouldn't have surprised me if Michael Mayer went in the first round, but I don't think that you can really knock the landing. For the tight end position, they got to have great athleticism. That's the only thing that we've seen consistently perform like at an elite level. And then they have to be part of elite offenses. We're still waiting for Kyle Pitts. We know Kyle Pitts' athleticism is there, but he hasn't been consistent because that offense has been, a little bit lagging. That's not going to be an issue for Buffalo for the foreseeable future. So good landing spot. And if you want to pull the trigger at pick 1, 10, 11, 12, I don't have a problem with that.
Let's say 1-7, 1-8.
I'm still taking Devin.
Maybe tight end premium. So this guy, here's the thing. You have a guy that looks like a wide receiver on tape, and he's going to play wide receiver for the Bills, and you can start him at your tight end spot, which should create some positional scarcity for you. That's why Dalton Kincaid's the one tight end from this class I will take in the first round. Again, 7, maybe a little rich. You have to get into some sort of tight end premium, 2 tight end type sets for that to happen. But I got him up there, man. I really like this guy. It's a good spot for him. Britt, Britt, where are you taking him, Britt? I want to know where Britt's taking him.
Yeah, it really depends on one, the structure of your dynasty league and what you need. But I think that Kincaid might be the best pure pass catcher, not just tight end, but best pure pass catcher in this entire draft.
107.
I've profiled him doing college football projections and lineups for the past 2 seasons. I love him. He's great. And his landing spot, I think he's going to line up in the slot. Buffalo doesn't typically run a bunch of 12 personnel, but when you put him in the slot, it reflects more as an 11 personnel situation than a 12. And I think that that's something that Buffalo can do. So I could realistically absolutely take Kincaid at a 107.
I just checked my own rankings for 1 QB, and I have him at 109. So where Felix has him. Kind of. Right in that range. But 107, it depends how you feel about Charbonnet and Achane. I probably won't take him ahead of the big 4 wide receivers, but I wouldn't blame you out there if you wanted to. In fact, I would encourage it and send me a screenshot if you do.
Love it. And then let's talk about let's just kind of lump every other tight end here, because you got, we thought Mayer would be getting day 1 draft capital. He certainly didn't. Luke Musgraves of the world. Combining those and just thinking about what day 2, maybe day 3 tight end do you think can have the most impact on their NFL team in year 1?
I really thought that Michael Mayer would go in the first round. I kind of thought that he was a lock for that. From Covington Catholic here in Kentucky, it was the number 2 ranked tight end in his class, number 2 to Eric Gilbert, who was the highest ranked tight end recruit of all time, but has kind of turned into a bust. But I love – people knock Michael Mayer because of his athleticism, but when you watch him on the field, he's very quick laterally. So you can put him in the slot and he can create separation against the linebacker. In my opinion, he can. We can see him do that. But then the thing that I think is his trump card is his ability to concentrate and win the contested catch, the difficult catch, and really squeeze that football. So I think that he's going to be a monster on in the red zone and again in the seam, and just even if he is covered, you can throw him the ball. If somebody's willing to throw him the ball, he will. He makes those catches consistently at his time at Notre Dame. And the next time that Michael Mayer is not a productive pass catcher playing football will be the first time. Like, we have so many questions about whether or not how fast he is in a straight line. When I think of like Tony Gonzalez and Antonio Gates and Rob Gronkowski, it's not these guys running away from them. It's it's either making tough catches in the middle of the field or running over linebackers and running after the catch. Michael Mayer is 265 pounds. He is a load. So he might not have the athleticism, but, a lot of these tight ends, you look at somebody like Evan Ingram who's playing at 240 or something like that. They don't have the size that he has. So I think that he can play on every down, first through third down, can be used in every situation. So I like this tight end class. I don't know anything about Luke Musgrave because of how injured he's been. I know that he's a great athlete, playing like 4 sports, but he's been injured. I love Sam Laporta. Great route runner, great tackle breaker, but probably not going to ask him early on to put his hand in the dirt and block anybody. That's fine. We don't want our tight ends to block anybody in fantasy anyway. So the only one that I never liked is Darnell Washington. I think that now we have an excuse.
We're out on Darnell. Felix, real quick, I'm gonna hit the promos and then I'm gonna let you do QBs. Take the stand for that because we gotta move here. And it's as simple as this: use promo code Fantasy Alarm on Underdog. Get set up there, and I'm gonna let you guys in a top secret promo code. Not sure. I know it's active. Not sure if I'm even supposed to be giving this out. If you use promo code COOP, you get 50% off 6 months all access on our site right now. So Howard, you're gonna have to yell at me if I wasn't supposed to give that out, but I'm giving it out for the sake of brevity. COOP, 6 months, 50% off, not 20% off. Felix, take the stand. Tell us about quarterbacks over the next 2 minutes. Then we got to get out of here.
Anthony Richardson landed in the perfect landing spot. If you were going to have a quarterback who is allegedly inaccurate, what situation would you want him to be in? Guys with huge catch radiuses. We talked about how big these guys are. Indianapolis. Alec Pierce, 6'4". Alex Pierce might be 6'3". Michael Pittman, 6'4". Jelani Woods, 6'7". Oh, I didn't even say the fact that he can just turn around and hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor. It's the perfect landing spot. Bryce Young, we knew was a number 1 overall pick since his time at Modern Day. To use a baseball analogy, I think Bryce Young is a 5-tool player. That 5th tool being his ability to run the ball. We didn't see that at Alabama. He's like, I'm good enough. I can just scramble around here. I think that we will see him have 500-600-yard rushing seasons in the NFL, just like Justin Fields. Remember, Justin Fields didn't run in college. He does in the NFL. I think that we'll see the same thing. I think we will see Bryce Young use that 5th tool in the NFL. They still got to build around him. CJ Stroud, love the player, hate the landing spot, hate the fact that they traded away that first-round pick that might be the number 1 overall pick next year. I hate the weapons that they have there. But another player who, like in the playoff, we saw him use his feet, make plays, scramble, make plays out of structure. So that is there, even though like the comp for CJ Stroud early on might have been like a Jared Goff type. The only problem I have with him is again, the weapons around him. There's the passing game coordinator from San Francisco is now their offensive coordinator. So, expect wide zone, boot on play action, that sort of thing in their offense. Does he have the weapons around him? Probably not. But, everybody who wants offense goes to San Francisco. Miami did. The Jets did, even though that didn't work out with Zach Wilson. And now Houston is going to San Francisco. You always go get a Kyle Shanahan or a Sean, what's the Rams coach's name? You always go get one of those. Sean McVay. You always get a McVay or a Shanahan assistant when you're looking for offense. And so Houston does the same thing here. But Anthony Richardson, I think, is in the conversation in Superflex to be the 101 because of how dynamic he is as a rusher. But then we may see him have his best passing season. He's only been a starter 1 year, guys. He's been a starter for 1 year. And obviously their head coach having the success that he had with Jalen Hurts. I think that we're underselling how quickly we could see Anthony Richardson develop. Is that 2 minutes? I think so.
It was perfect. All you got to do, tell us real quick where you can find your stuff because we got to be out before the hour.
At Sharpe Review on Twitter, and then catch Sharpe with an E, and then campus2canton.com is where you find my rankings. You find what C2C is and all of that kind of stuff. The Debian Freshman Guide, go get those.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Kev, take us home.
Absolutely. Felix, thank you so much for joining us here. We will be back next week for Coop, for Britt, for Felix. I'm Kevin Tompkins. Britt, take us out.